Hello, my name's Mark. I'm going to talk about my personal experience with addiction um, and the influencing factors of me starting um, using it. And a lot of it's childhood. I started using drugs when I was 12 years old. First one being alcohol, but preceding that, um, my home environment. Um, I had a mother who suffered from severe mental health problems, like schizophrenia, and a grandfather who suffered from schizophrenia. I had a violent father. There was a lot of aggression in our house, a lot of bullying from siblings, sibling rivalry. Um, I mean, it's like my parents split when I was 10 years old. I wanted to go with my dad. I ended up staying with my mum and my brother and my sister. And my mother was schizophrenic, and most of the time she was poorly. She was in and out of hospital quite a lot. And then we spend time with grandparents, aunties, uncles, wherever we could be. Sometimes family was separated completely. One of us would be in one place, one would be in another. And then it's like I couldn't comprehend what was going on with my mother from like 8, 9, 10 years old. When she was um, mentally ill. I didn't know how to emotionally cope with that. Um, I didn't know how to mentally cope with that. I didn't know when she was ill and when she wasn't, because my mother was my mother, and everyone sees the mother as somebody who guides them and kind of always knows which right way to go. And my mother kind of lost that, but I didn't know it. And it's like other people had to point out exactly what. Sometimes it was very apparent that she was poorly, and other times it was very subtle. Um, and she was physically ill. She had a full abdominal hysterectomy when I was 11 years old, and she was in bed for about 9 months. We had to cook for her, clean the house, washing up, hoovering up, ironing clothes, and do all that ourselves and look after her. I used to have to deal with her toiletry needs as well at 11 years old. And it was like responsibility was put on me that shouldn't have been put on at kind of a young age. And by the time I was 12, I had a brother and sister, both. They were very close. They was to my mum's first husband, and I was kind of pushed out a little bit from their relationship. And a big influencing factor was I never felt good enough. I never felt like I was meeting up to what anybody expected of me. Due to what was going on at home, my schoolwork suffered. My relationships at school were pretty bad. The violence I saw in my home, I took to school. I was constantly in trouble. I was constantly being rebellious. Um, Grades were sliding. I wasn't doing the work, and then I stopped going to school. Um, and it's like when I started using, I was kind of seeking some comfort or some peace from all of that chaos that was going on around me. And I remember the first time I had a drink. I've been to the place yesterday where I had my first drink. I was sat on um, Sheriffutton Castle mott, the big hill it sat on, um, with 4 cans, and from there it was a slippery slide. Within 6 months of starting, I was drinking every day. Um, School had gone completely out the window, and I think it was about a year after that I discovered solvents, and they were easier to get hold of. We'd moved house as well, and alcohol wasn't available in the new place where I was living, so it was easy for me to find solvents than what it was for me to find out to obtain alcohol. And it's like by the age of 17, um, I was injecting amphetamine quite regularly. Um, and it's like people say, "Oh, drugs is a lifestyle choice." I wouldn't say it is. You know, I kind of lost that power of choice at 12 years old. If I'd have known what was going to happen through my life at 12 years old, having had that first drink, I probably, definitely would have still had it. But it would have been an informed choice. I made a very uninformed choice, and I didn't know how it was going to roll out, what was going to happen throughout. And it's like by the age of 18, 19, I was still using every day. No job prospects, no qualifications. I had a criminal record by that point in time, and there didn't seem to be a way out, and that kind of worsened the situation for me. And I remember making a decision to kind of reject the entirety of society, everybody in it, work, any hope of any change. And it's like I was happy. I convinced myself I was happy doing what I was doing. But even then, I remember I didn't have many friends. I had people I hung about with. It's like as a teenager, and it's like most of them were in my local vicinity were younger. I hung about with them at my convenience, but quite most of the time I was on my own. I felt very lonely and very different from other people. It's like they was in society, and I was this kind of weird, odd person on the outskirts, just like looking in on all these people having friendships and kind of having laughs and whatnot. And I'd be off on my own doing my own thing, sat smoking a joint somewhere, sat having a hit over there, or sat sniffing a bag of glue over there, or whatever I was doing, you know. And when I did it, I kind of did it to extreme. It's like I didn't, when I was using, it's like my mum knew me as that lad, that my youngest son who goes out of the house on a Friday night and doesn't get home till Wednesday afternoon, and he's generally off his tits. And it's like I've been off my tits since before I left the house. And she was deeply concerned. Everybody was, you know. And it's like my dad saw what was going on. My mum and my dad were separated, and he lived in a different place, and he kind of distanced himself from me real fast. It's like he's doing that. I don't want him in my house. I don't want him around. I don't want him stealing from me. I don't want him trying to blag money off me. I don't want any of that. And he's kind of pushed me right away. So it's like as time progressed, I got more and more distant and isolated from any kind of relationships, any kind of family. Because all my dad's side of the family did the same thing. Like there's Mark over there, and my mum's side of the family was starting to do it as well. And it's like I had a deeply religious grandmother, and she'd be like scorning guilt and shame upon me for all the stuff I was doing. And it's like, and my auntie was deeply religious, and she's saying, "Why have you turned your back on Jesus?" And it's like, you know, I'm not going to tell you my reply to that. It wasn't very nice, you know. And it's like, I really didn't know what I was doing. And it's like, as I progressed, I got married at 19, and I kind of calmed down a little bit from all the drug side, and I started drinking. But I was drinking every day. And 7 years down the line, I'd gone back onto the cannabis, back onto the amphetamines, and drinking, and taking tablets. And my wife stood there, and she said, and she gave me an ultimatum. She said, "Mark, if you don't stop by New Year, I'm out. I'm gone." And I'm like, well, you know, I'm kind of trying to find reasons to kind of get her to stay. And it's like I knew I'd been suctioning money out of the house, what could have been used on other things. I knew rather than being a contributor to our relationship, I was kind of take, and my kids were suffering as a result. You know, the finances were suffering, and all that kind of stuff. And it's like when I look back on it, I kind of really can't blame her for trying to pull me. And it's like she kind of pointed out that for the 7 years she'd known we'd been married, and the year before that when we getting to know each other, she says there hasn't been a single day that you haven't put one substance or another in your body. She says, and you are no longer the person I met and grew to love 7, 8 years ago. She says you are a completely different animal to what you was back then. And it's like, because she put it to me that I was an addict, and I'm like, well, no, because if I get a problem with that, I'll just change to that. And I saw it as if I didn't have any physical symptoms, and I could like, have a couple of days off, or you know, something became a problem, I'd move somewhere else and it calmed down a little bit. So I kind of thought I had some control, but she kind of put it straight there and then on the table. There hasn't been a single day in 8 years where you haven't used, and I can't deal with this no more. You know, and at that time, I had a business. We had a house, I had a car, I had kids, dog, you know, and in one day, all of that was gone, and I was stood outside in the street with a bag of clothes on my own, homeless. And I never came back from that. I never came back from that, you know. The thing is, I was still in that mindset of, well, if I don't use that, and I use that instead. And it's like, I spent a bit of time in psychiatric units at that point at the end of my marriage. And I was continuing to use when I was in hospital. I got kicked out of the psychiatric unit because I was a danger to the other patients due to my using. And then I went to prison. And it's kind of things just got worse. It's like prison was a relief for me because I couldn't drink in prison. It's like I got some kind of structure in my life. I got a roof over me and I got meals. And it's like on a bus to prison, I was like, oh, God, that's over. You know, I wasn't thinking about I've got to do X amount of time in prison. It's like it was just thank God I don't have to deal with that out there no more. You know, life was a mess. I was like either in a homeless hostel, in a probation hostel, in a probation house, or back in jail, and that kind of was the extent of my life. And I kept going round in them like circles all the time, and it's like everybody I knew, I didn't trust them, I didn't like them, and the feelings were probably mutual, and everybody was just using everybody else to get what they could. It's like, oh, it's so and so's payday, I'll go give them a visit, they might sort me out. It wasn't, oh, it'd be nice to see them and I might take them this down and I wonder if they've got any shopping in. I didn't give a damn about what they had and what they didn't have. All I knew was they were getting paid, I needed sorting out. And that was my entire mindset, and my entire fortnight between my paydays was based on that, is where can I go, who's getting paid, and what can I get out of them. And it's a very self-centered, selfish place to end up in. And it's like, I progressed onto heroin. I didn't take heroin until I was about 29, and it quickly took over my life. You know, all the other drugs went out the window. It's like heroin is a very demanding mistress because it demands all your time, all your energy, and all your money every day. It's like you wake up, you're feeling poorly, you're feeling sick, your stomach's in bits, you're aching, sweating, shaking, and it's like, I need to sort this out. So that was going to come in first. Whatever else was going on, I need a hit. And it's like, when am I going to get the money? When am I going to get the goods to sell? Who am I going to take it off? Or who am I going to have over in the street? And it kind of, it went on that way. And it's like, and then where am I going to score? And while you're having that hit, you're thinking, this ain't going to last long. Where am I going to rob? Who am I going to manipulate? Who am I going to beg? Who am I going to do anything to get my next one? And you're kind of just stuck in that constantly. And it's like, a couple of times crack was added to that mix. And at them points in time, I was spending £800 a day, every day, which meant I had to steal or beg or borrow or whatever means I had to use, get £1,600 a day to feed an £800 a day habit. And it's inevitable that you're always going to end up in prison. It's quite a high probability that you're going to die. And if you're not doing either of them things, you're going insane. You know, it's like in the lifestyle I was leading, you know, and I'll give you some idea of it. I've been stabbed on 2 occasions, 13 times. Since I got clean, my ex-partner got murdered on Christmas Eve 4 years ago. And it's like, people look at, when people look at addiction, they look at, oh, they're thieving. So I didn't have a choice but to do that. If I didn't do that, I was poorly. If I didn't use, I was so uncomfortable with myself wanting to commit suicide. And that was my life, and it's like, it's a horrible place to be, and it's not a place I choose readily to return back to, and it's like, I've been clean for 6.5 years, and it's been probably the hardest thing I've ever done, the most rewarding thing I've ever done, because I've had to build a life away from addiction, away from drugs, away from the people, find some purpose and direction in my life. I've done that, build a home. I've done that. Build friendships, build relationships back with families, and it's like, I've done all of that, and there's still loads more work to do. But the very first thing I had to do was find out who I was. I'd lost myself in all of that, and people pointing fingers doesn't help. People point fingers, oh, you're a junkie scum, you're a thieving, I didn't choose that. All I chose one day was to have a drink on a hill at 12 years old, not knowing what was going to unravel. Normal people can have a drink. This is the difference between an addict and a normal person. Can walk in a pub and have a drink, have 3 or 4 and a conversation, and go out and think no more about it. Anybody who has what I suffer from cannot do that. It's like, if I walked into a pub and I just ordered a pint, I'd one sip, and I got a phone call off my daughter saying, I'm in hospital, da, 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 da. I would be angry as fuck. I wouldn't be able to take my mind off that drink. I would go to my daughter after I've finished that drink, but I would be constantly thinking I should be in the pub now drinking. My mindset would be there, not with my daughter, and oh dear, she's in hospital, and what's happening, and what can I do about it, and I need to be with her. It wouldn't be there. It's like, I want to be in the pub, because it's separated me from my only source of comfort. And that's the difference between a normal person and somebody who suffers from addiction, is the drugs seem to, or whatever drug it is, and alcohol, by the way, is a drug. It's the oldest drug known to mankind. The only difference between that and heroin, there's 2 differences. One is it's legal, and 2 is it can kill you when you come off it rather than while you're on it. I did my last, as I say, I've been clean. I got clean my last day using that. I remember it very well. I'll talk about it a little bit. I'd woke up to the police sneaking around outside my flat. I knew I was wanted. I had half a can of special brew. I think it was about 7:30 in the morning. My front door came off. I was trying to get some diazepam down my neck because I knew I was going away. And as the front door went off, when I turned around, I had 3 tasers and 6 guns pointed at my head. I had 3 dots on my chest from the other 3 guns pointing through the window. And that was 18 months after my mum had died. And I've been trying for that full 18 months to get clean. I hadn't used street drugs since the day of the funeral. I came off methadone over a period of about 14 months. But what I was left with was a diazepam prescription and alcohol. I could justify the diazepam prescription. I was prescribed it for my mental health, I hadn't I'd manipulated that prescription out of a doctor many, many years ago when I was in a different place at a different time. And the truth is, I didn't really need them anymore. The fact is that there was only masking anything that was going on for me, and I was abusing them to death. I was buying extra on the street by the hundreds, and I ought really not to have had that prescription. And the doctor kind of said, the only reason I've left you with it is so that you're not buying them off the street. So he knew the score. And that was my last day using. I got told when I got to prison 4 days later that they sent me to the hospital when I was in a bit of a mess. and they took blood tests, and they told me that I had about 6 weeks left to live if I continued doing what I was doing. So the fact that I'm still alive today is kind of a blessing and a miracle. You know, when you've been told you've got 6 weeks left to live, and and the doctor kind of turned around. He was a prison doctor. And he says, Mark, that's my medical professional opinion. He said, my personal, I'll give you 3 weeks to 4. You are nearly dead. He says, you sat there. He says, you've got internal organs missing. He says, you've only got one kidney. You've no spleen. You've only got one lung. You've got chronic hepatitis C, and you are still throwing drugs at that. I used to destruction. You know, it's like I didn't use. It's like I used to wake up to 4 cans of special brew, a litre of vodka, and 26 diazepam, 28 diazepam, 30 diazepam every morning, and then I'd get out of bed. Then I'd have the same in the living room, and then I'd leave my house. What happened after that? I don't know, because the last 18 months of my using before I got locked up, I don't know what I did, who I was with, where I spent it, or anything like that. It's just blank. From all I remember is waking up without the side of the bed, the same again in the living room with a pile of money on the table for that day, and I'd go out my front door, the fresh air would hit me, and I'd black out. I'd wake up the next day, and all the same stuff set up in place. So what I did, I don't know. You know, it's like I came into, as I say, I got clean, and it's like there has to be some kind of recovery from that. I was mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually broken, and there's some mending to do. There's still mending to do. You know, it's like I joined a 12-step fellowship, and I worked the 12 steps. I'm back working step 1 again at the moment. I see the benefits of working through these steps. I've got to know myself as a person. I've got to know my strengths, my weaknesses, and who I am. You know, rather than who I think I am. I try to have a relationship with who I actually am, because when I start to have a relationship with who I think I am, things go wrong, because I think I'm better than what I am. I think I can do more than I can actually do. And it's like I've had to learn to run on my own energies rather than any kind of energies from outside substances and sources. And that energy at the minute is quite low. You know, I've been through hepatitis C treatment twice and cleared that. I work for an organisation called the Hepatitis C Trust, and we're kind of in the process of eradicating hepatitis C from Great Britain. You know, that's the task, to eradicate hepatitis C before 2040. So by the time I'm hitting retirement age, I'm hoping that we've kind of dissipated hepatitis C down to about 2% in this country. You know, I work within the fellowship. I work with other addicts. I was out with one yesterday because he's relapsed, so I took him for a day out. We had a barbecue with his girlfriend and kind of just give him some support, because this coronavirus and this lockdown, that guy's been sat in his lockdown on his own with the last person he used with. The last person he used with was with himself, same as me. You know, I'm sat here with the last person I use with, and if I'm not doing stuff like this where I can get out my own thinking, out my own, you know, because addicts overthink everything. They have racing thinking. You know, I suffer from post-traumatic stress from my childhood going right through my adulthood. There's been a lot of violence, a lot of turmoil, a lot of destruction, and it's like since getting clean, I've been through some therapy for post-traumatic stress. I choose not to use any medication, because medication for me just covers the problem, doesn't cure it, and anything that covers something is only going to, in the long run, make things worse. You know, so I've learned to kind of hit things head on and start tackling and dealing. You know, the first 2 years of therapy has been probably harder than getting clean and staying clean. It's been the most challenging thing I've ever done. You know, it's like I was having nightmares every day, and every night, sorry, and I was having chronic flashbacks and re-experiencing things on a daily basis. The noises of ambulances sets me off. It's like all that kind of stuff's dissipated somewhat. And I've been given some useful tools to kind of bring myself back from a re-experiencing episode. You know, just kind of bring me back to the right here, right now, you know. Because at the moment, for me, all the stuff I've talked about now, I only do for something like this. It's pointless me living in all of that because I don't live there anymore. You know, I live here now, today. I do what I need to do today to the best I can, and tomorrow will deal with itself. I have goals, I have aspirations, I have places I want to be, and I do what I can today to get to contribute to get to where I'm going and just keep moving forward. And that's kind of how I run my life. You know, I've got some work with my relationships with my children. I've got some more work to do with my aunties, my uncles. I've got some work to do within the fellowship with them. You know, I've got work to do in building friendships. I've got me washing up to do today, me hoovering. I still haven't made my bed. You know, it's kind of that's how I live, and I try and ring about 4 people every day. You know, anybody in this corona thing, anybody that watches this to this point in time, check on your friends. You know, nobody checked on that guy I was with yesterday. He ended up using again. You know, and it's kind of he could have lost his relationship. He's lost his place to live. I've had to find him a roof over his head. You know, I fed him yesterday, took him out for a day out. You know, check on your friends because it's really hard sometimes to pick up your phone and say, turn on someone and say, I'm hurting. It's as simple as that, right? I'll close it down because I want to do some question and answers, I believe. And I think I've talked enough.
All right. Thank you so much, Mark, for opening up about all that. I think, yeah, I've learned a lot from you, and I'm really glad that you could open up about those things, because I think, like you said, there's a lot of stereotypes and misunderstanding and misconception around addiction and addicts. But maybe, like, could you pinpoint some of the most helpful things for you in the last, is it 6.5 years of recovery, of being clean?
Well, someone put it to me like this, you know, all I know is when I put the first one in, I'm going to use again and again and again. The lie has returned that I can use successfully, and it could be a week between the use, a month between the use, between the first and the second. That time will decrease over a period. For me, I reckon if I picked up, I just won't stop. That's kind of where I'm at. So someone turned on to me and went, Mark, when you're going to get hit by a train, you don't wonder about the last carriage that's going to run over you because the engine's already killed you. You know, so that kind of helps me to make a decision on, do I want to use and let this run? Because I'm dead before I start. I don't want to get off the track. You know, and it's like, where emotional, mental pain, when the pain becomes too great, we become willing to change or we die. You know, it's like in recovery, there's been a few occasions where I've been suicidal, contemplating suicide, because that's where it takes me out. It's not I want to use anymore because I don't want to live that living death I was living out there, that loneliness, that isolation, that separation. I don't want to live like that. I would rather die than go back. And there's been a few times in recovery where I've been suicidal, and it's like my mental health plays out. I get feelings of persecution. People are working against me. People are planning things. Paranoia, really bad paranoia. And it's like someone said to me, just a simple thing of go out for a walk, take a bus ride. And I'm like, that's so simple, that's stupid, that's not going to work. Went out for a walk, jumped on a bus. Oh, brilliant, fine. You know, it's about, if you're paranoid about people, meet people. If you're feeling persecuted, talk to someone. You know, I've learned to kind of hold space for people, and because people hold space for me, you know, I've had a lot of help along this way. You know, all I know is I can't stay clean on my own, and I need like-minded people who know me, know the nuts and bolts of me. And, it's like I have a 12-step sponsor. The last one I had, I've just separated, and I've got a new one. But he knows everything I've done, every secret I've held, everything about me, how I tick, how I operate, how I think, and everything. And it's like I could ring him with something that seems seemingly overwhelming, too important, whatever, and he'd kind of just bash it all back down into perspective. Because you know you've got to think that an addict has been living in unreality for so long. I don't know what reality is anymore. They have no. I mean, me personally, I have my perspectives really out. You know, I can blow minor things into major proportions. I really struggle with feelings, with expressing feelings. Feeling them, I find it absolutely exhausting. You know, I'm not used to having them. For 15 years, I was just numb. So it's like having feelings. It's difficult stuff. What helps for me is writing what I'm feeling, writing down what's going on. And sometimes I look at it and I have to sit and laugh because it's utter rubbish what I believe is happening and what is actually happening. Like I say, I try to have a relationship with Mark, who Mark actually is, rather than who he thinks he is, because my perspective of myself is out sometimes. You know, so I need another person. I need a few other people. And for me, it's about connection to other human beings. You know, and it's like everybody around me saying, "Oh, there's these supportive people." I'm not there to support nobody. Support yourself. Right? I'm a sponsor, right? I sponsor people. I've got a sponsor, and all that kind of thing. I'm not there to support anybody. Support yourself. I've had to stand on your own 2 feet, right? I will give somebody the truth, whether I like to give it or not, whether they like to hear it or not, because it is the truth that sets me free. It's the truth that will set them free, and it's only the truth and the honesty that keeps people clean. You know, I didn't come into recovery being as honest as what I am now about who I am, what I am, how I am. You know, that kind of stuff grows over time, and how we learn that is from other people telling us when we're not being honest, when we're not being true, when we can't see the truth, somebody to point it out. When I still have blind spots. I think every human being has blind spots of the self, and sometimes them blind spots can kill an addict. Arrogance. What was using? Everybody in your family is turning around to you saying, "Oh, don't do drugs. Drugs are bad." Not me. I'm all right. I'm different. That won't happen to me. That's pure arrogance. You know, when 15 people are telling you, no, don't do that, or you've taken this too far now, it's time to stop. You know, I turn around to my family, I went, if you've got a problem with my using, that's your problem. I'm the one dying, but it's their problem. All they were trying to do was care for me. You know, and it's like that arrogance will kill an addict. You know, self-pity, feeling so sorry for yourself. You know, poor me, pour me another drink, pour me another hit in the spoon. You know, it's like I don't give an addict sympathy. I will give them empathy, compassion, acceptance, but I will not give an addict sympathy because that's a tool of an addict, is to gain sympathy to get what they want. So a lot of people kind of confuse empathy and compassion, and it's like I've been told I lack empathy and compassion because I won't give sympathy. No, I just will not buy another addict's bullshit.
Mm.
You know, that's what works for me. That's what works for people I sponsor. You know, it's like I'm not going to be able to help everybody. Not everybody's going to want what I've got. You know, what I've got is a pretty good life, some peace, some inner peace, some good relationships. You know, there's loads of work to do. You know, when I came into this, I didn't realise that exactly how much work I had left to do on myself, how much work would be involved. I'm trying to build a life that's so fantastically beautiful without drugs that I'll never, ever, ever want to go back to where I came from. And so far, it's working.
I'm so glad to hear that, Mark, honestly. Like, I'm so glad to hear that you're in that place. And, you know, that I know that, like you said, expression and emotions and these things are huge and difficult and overwhelming. But I think, like, you've really portrayed a lot in, like, a short amount of time. So I just want to thank you for being here today and opening up about all of that.
What's really helps is a 12-step fellowship. Most importantly, you know, work. It's like I see a lot of people come into the fellowship and they'll sit in meetings and they won't do the step work. You know, I've got. I think you've seen my folder of step work, the work I've done on me, and it's like if you're not going to do the work you're going to use again. This isn't a given. Recovery isn't a given. You're not just going to get clean and stay clean without doing that work. If it was that simple, I'd have stopped using 10 years before I did, maybe 15 years before I did. When you get clean, there's work to do. You know, anybody out there that's using, or just finished using, there's work to do. If you want to stay clean, if you want better life, there's fucking loads of work to do. You know, and anybody, if you are still using on a daily basis, anybody out there, you know, what can I say? If you want to stop, you'll find us. You know, the fellowship I belong to, we're doing H&I meetings in the prison I was in. You know, I got clean in prison, found fellowship in prison. And from my first meeting till now, I haven't used because as soon as I'd heard that message, I never had to use again. I don't have to use. Nobody told me that. I don't have to use. I thought I had to use. I had to use to live. I don't have to use. Yay.
Woo! Is there anything else you want to add before we close up?
No, I don't think so. I'll probably, like when we finish and about an hour later, 2 hours later, I'll go, ah. But other than that, no. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Thanks.
Yeah, like I said, I'd have one of them aha moments afterwards. So for anybody out there, you know, if they've got a family member who's using, there is nothing you can do for them until, you know, an addict will not stop using until they're ready to stop using. You can't say, oh, well, you're an addict, so you need to go to a meeting. That's for them to decide. They're not going to listen anyway. They're just going to do what they want to do until they're done. So, you know, what my family did was lead me to it. Didn't give me any money, didn't give me any help. You know, and it's like when that final bit of support and help that went away when my mum died, there was nobody else to help me. I was in a point of isolation, desperation, and loneliness before I became willing to do anything about my addiction. You know, and that's the only thing you can do for a family member who's using. It's called tough love. If you love them enough, you'll leave them on their own. They'll soon figure out there are no friends out there. Nobody's going to help feed them. Nobody else is going to help clothe them. You know, and all the money's going in the wrong direction. Only then that point of desperation needs to be hit. The only thing you can do to help them is to help them hit that point earlier, and then they might live.